Hey guys, this is Josh from Sandbox for Kids coming to you with the first in a new series of Unity 3D tutorials. So Unity is one of the biggest game engines in the world out there, right next to engines like Unreal Engine and the CryEngine, along with some other big engines that developers have used to make some pretty amazing games. So we're gonna hop right into it and open it up. So this is Unity 5.6.0 F3, the most recent version at the time of this recording. So I'm gonna go ahead and open it up. So here we have the first window, project creation window. So we have an option to save projects in the cloud on the disk. So we're just going to go ahead and create a new project on the disk. So you go and just click new here. And we have a couple options here. So we have our project name. So I'm just going to name it, say Sandbox Intro Video. And I'm going to save this. And I have a pre-made folder here. So I'm Unity Games and save it in Sandbox Projects. There you go. And then so we have an option to create the project in 3D or 2D. You don't need to worry too much about this because 3D and 2D are completely interchangeable. It's just going to set some initial properties that will make it slightly easier to create either 3D or 2D games. So yeah, essentially a 3D game just has an added z-axis, and so if we wanted to start it out as a 2D project, it's just going to take out that z-axis, or it's going to take that z-axis view away from us, and we can simply check a box and bring it back. So this is just going to enable some initial options that are very easy for us. So we're just going to start out with a 3D project here, because why not? 3D projects are awesome. The goal of this video is going to be to give a very general overview of all of the features that Unity has to offer, and then in some videos after this we're going to go into some in-depth projects, and each one will kind of showcase some prominent feature of Unity that's used in most games. So yeah, so here we are. We have a bunch of different windows. And first thing I want to point out is that we have this layout tab here, which can be, so we have a bunch of defaults that we can set our windows set to. So we have a 2x3, we have a 4 split. I usually use something akin to this 2x3 with the project view down here. So I'll quickly go over what a lot of these windows actually do. So here we have our scene window. Our scene window is where most of the magic's going to be happening, so we're going to be moving around in here. We have, a free transform move with our editor camera. So just a couple of quick scene view controls. You can right click, hold that, and then that will rotate the camera around, and you can use the W, A, and D keys to move us around. So this gives us a pretty broad range of movement in a 3D world. Which is always nice. We also have this axis transform up here we can use to get quick views on anything. We could get a quick view on the y-axis, just looking straight down, x-axis, looking at it from this point of view, and we can also and then we can also just rotate it the normal way to using right click and moving around like this. So that's our scene view. Our game view down here. Also, I wanted to point, as you can see, these windows are completely traversable. You can move them around anywhere you want. You can undock them. I can put my game view up here next to my scene view up here, and then I can look at them individually. Or I could put my game view down here, right where I like it. Or I could put the project view up. Grab it. So I can put my I could grab my project view and I can put it up here. So they're completely interchangeable. So I'm gonna go put those back where I found them, because this is where I like them. I also like, everything is completely customizable. So I like my project view in a one column layout like this, where it'll show nothing right now because there's nothing in it. And I'll get to that in a second. So the game view down here, oops, I don't want it like that. want the game view down here. So the game view is where we will be able to preview what our game is going to be like. So we could press play up here. So we have a play button, a pause button, and a if we have breakpoints, we can go to multiple breakpoints. But that's for another video. So we can press play. I have a fancy little play color set on my editor. You might not have that at first, but you can change it in the settings. And yeah, so we have our game view, and it does absolutely nothing now because this is a blank project. So I'm gonna press play again and get out of that. So here, our hierarchy view, the kind of bread and butter of Unity. So we have everything in here is what shows up in our scene view. So as you see, it has a main camera and a directional light right now. So yeah, so I can double click on those and it'll zoom to them automatically, just like that. And I can scroll in, look at my camera. So this is my camera. The camera is what actually shows the game view. So as you can, if I went behind the camera in the scene view, I would get what kind of perspective of the game view, and it also shows a camera preview. And yeah, we can grab that and move it around. You can grab objects by their axes like this. So right now I'm grabbing it by the x-axis. It means I can move it along the x-axis nicely. This is the y-axis, or changes the axis when you click on it, but I can move it along the y-axis like this. And yeah, easy ways to move objects around. And let's see, so we have the hierarchy, and then we have the project view right here. So the project view is kind of going to be our management / storage system for our project structure. So we have a create button where we can create everything that we need in our game pretty much, or we can just right click and create stuff, and it does the exact same thing. So usually what I do in my project view is I like to set up a very organized structure of folders just to put everything in. So I'm going to press create and then folder. So one of the first things we're going to need is a folder for our scenes. So you might have seen this if you've used something like GameMaker, for example. Scenes are basically our rooms in GameMaker. And they have tons of different names in different game engines, but essentially they are like levels. So, and you can do many things with levels. You can you can create, I could have one scene that can be my main menu, and I can have one scene that could be my first level of my game. And I can transition to a second scene that's my second level of the game, and so on and so forth. There's tons of power in that, what you could do, which we could get into in a later video. So I'm going to go ahead and create, actually, so we actually have a scene here. So this is this symbol right here, the Unity symbol, that is the symbol for our scene. So first and foremost, what we want to do in our editing process is go and press save scene as. And this is gonna so see, I created this the scene folder. This is also gonna show up in our project now because I created this scene folder. So I'm gonna go inside that scene folder and I'm gonna name it main. So this is my main scene of the game, and now it'll show a drop down menu and we can go into that main scene, and it shows it as main up here in the hierarchy window too. So yeah, so we can open up, there's tons of crazy things you can do with scenes. You can have scenes inside of scenes, so you can edit so you can edit multiple things inside one scene that don't affect the outer layers of the outer scene, and becomes sceneception eventually if you make it really complicated. But yeah. So yeah, so that's our main scene. Another folder I like to make in the project view is a materials folder. So materials are things we can put on our objects to give them color, to give them spunk. So I can go to create and then go to material. So by the way, just as a reiteration, I'm creating these by right clicking and then going to create and then whatever I want to create, and in this case, materials. You can also create things by going create up here, and then you can create things that way, or we could go up here in the top bar, and we have tons of different things we could do. We could go to game object, create tons of different game objects. We have a bunch of pre-made objects that we can put in our game. We have UI stuff, video, audio, lighting, cool stuff. We have components, which I'll get into in a little bit as well. And yeah, so we can do that. So materials. One other thing, actually, you can click on something and then just click a second time, and you can edit the name. So I'm going to say, I don't know, red material, simple stuff. And you can edit the color. And the albedo is the main color. In this case, metallic. You have tons of different properties you can edit. And yeah, I encourage you to play around with that stuff. Yeah, so now I usually put in an animation folder. So animation is great. Animation is a great component of video games. So we have a couple different types of objects we can use to assist in our animation editing process. One of them is the animator controller. So the animator controller is pretty much exactly, say, player animation. Player animation control. It's pretty much exactly what it sounds like. It controls the flow of the animation on some object that it's on. And yeah, so we can say, I'll name this animator controllers, and then I like to be very organized, as you can see. And then I'm going to create another folder for animation. So these are individual animations. So if you've ever taken some sort of animation class at all, then you know animation is essentially you take a flip book and you flip through all the frames, and you have a frame by frame animation. You flip through it really fast, and you have a full animation that you can see. And that's an integral part of most video games, unless you know they're horrible. JK. Yeah, so I can create an animation. Where is it there? Animation. And so let's say I can name this player idle. So this could be our player's idle animation, and you could throw on the player's idle animation on there. And then you could have a walkie animation. So you could say, where's the animation? Player walk, and so on and so forth. You could put a player run, player jump, you know, transitions between those, whatever we want. All right, and yeah, so then we could have a scripts folder. My favorite part about gaming is the game programming. I didn't mean to create a new script. I meant to create a scripts folder. Scripts. I name this scripts. Put you in there. And there you go. So scripts are game logic. They are the bread and butter of how games run, and they can get kind of confusing sometimes. They require a little bit of coding knowledge, but Unity does it very well. It has several scripting languages. One of them is C# and one of them is JavaScript. So here we have two options, C# script and JavaScript. They're completely, say my JavaScript script. They're completely interchangeable, so you can use any JavaScript scripts along with any C# scripts in your projects, which is super nice. My C# script. And yeah, scripts are, like I said, the bread and butter of every game. You are not going to be able to run a game in Unity without scripts of some sort. And yeah, so then we have another integral part of video games is the audio. So, you know, I'm going to create a folder, audio folder. You can put in some audio. So, audio is, we have the main thing we want to be looking for here is the audio mixer. It's not in here. I think oh, gotcha. Audio source. So this is I'm going to delete this actually because I need to illustrate a point here. So I haven't gotten into the inspector window actually yet, but if you go to any game object, so say I'm going to create a a game object in here, so I'm going to just right click, no, game object, 3D object, and I'm going to make a capsule because capsules are cool, they're not bland. And you have the inspector view, so anytime you click on an object, whether in the hierarchy or in the scene view, you have the inspector. The inspector has everything you need to know about that object. It has these things called components, and the components can be anything ranging from the transform, which is the current position of position, rotation, and scale of that object relative to the world. Has a mesh filter. In this case, it's a capsule mesh filter because I created a pre-made capsule 3D object. Capsules are great. And yeah, without that mesh filter, you wouldn't be able to see it. Or no, not the mesh filter, the mesh renderer, you wouldn't be able to see it. So if I uncheck this, then you're not going to be able to see that anymore. Yeah, mesh renders, and the mesh filter is something else, but it's on every game object, and you do best to just leave it. And we also have, in this case, a capsule collider. So the capsule collider is, or colliders in general, are what lets your objects interact with the game world. So, so say we don't have a capsule collider on this. We can click on this gear mark and press remove component. This is now just a piece of art, which kind of sucks. I mean, it doesn't suck, art's great, but this has no way to interact with the world. Everything's just gonna go around and push it around, or not push it around because it's transparent and has no mass or anything at all. So yeah, capsules are great. We also have a bunch of different components, but essentially a lot of this stuff that we made earlier in the project view, animation, animator controllers, my mouse, materials and scripts and such, they can be added onto objects as components. So I can go into project view, click on a script, for example, drag it onto my object, and it says it cannot add it because the script can make sure that there are no compilers. Okay, so it doesn't like me. Oh, that's why. Okay, I'm gonna delete these. So just for future reference, the class name of the script, in this case new behavior script, has to match the script name, which is fun. You have to rename things in the script, which I'll get into later, and delete these for now. And create a couple new ones because I like scripts. I'm gonna name it my script. Alright, there you go. So I can drag my script on now. It's not going to give me an error, which is great. And so now everything on this script is doing is going to be applied to this object. So that's going to be the bread and butter of our game logic and how we run game mechanics and such and such. We also have, we have those colliders. So we have, if I type in collider, I get a bunch of different types of colliders. We have box colliders, so it's the shape of a box. Capsule colliders, we have circle colliders. These are all 2D colliders. We're in 3D games, so we don't pay attention to those. Those are inferior colliders. And so I'm going to put on our capsule collider again, and it auto shapes it, so it's the scale of our object that we put it on, which is very nice. We have a bunch of different, on all our components, we have tons of different options we can put on that we can get into in later videos because there's a whole lot of components we could get into. But I mean, for the collider specifically here, we have we have a radius, so we can edit that. We can make it 1, for example, make it a little bit more wider around the hips. We have height, we can make that 5, make it super tall, and then no one will know what hit them because the object's actually taller than it looks. Crazy. Yeah. What did I have it at first? 2? Yeah, I had it at 2. Cool. And yeah, so cool options on those. Let's see, what else do we have? So I'm going to go back to our project view and I create a couple more folders. that are relevant. So we have prefabs. So prefabs are great. I love them. This is one of the things. I did that again. I made what I said. I made the asset, not the management for the asset. So prefabs, and I'm gonna grab this prefab. I don't want I don't want that. I'm gonna take you out. Cool. So we have our prefabs. So prefabs are essentially objects that are saved copies of instances. So say this capsule right now. I'm gonna rename this capsule our player. Okay. So this crazy beautiful player with no animation or anything. That's our player. So I'm gonna see. We want to change some stuff on it. We want to put. I like rigid bodies. They're great. Rigid bodies are essentially are linked to the physics engine, or one of the physics engine that Unity uses. And yeah, so when you're writing code or when you're adding stuff on, and you want to make stuff go places using physics, be affected by physics, you always need a rigid body, and you have constraints on that, and yada yada. So also these arrows, you can conveniently close all the options down, so you don't have to look at them all the time. You can just get a general overview of what everything does, because I don't want to see what any of that does. And so now I have my player with a bunch of components, and I want to save this player so I can make tons and tons of different copies of it. So I'm gonna put it in prefabs. So prefabs are amazing and powerful, and they will save your life countless times when you're making games in Unity. I don't know what the heck this error is. Don't want to deal with it. But yeah, so now I have that prefab, and I can go ahead and drag it up, put it places, and get tons and tons of players. And now if you look at all of them, they're the exact same, except they have slightly different transforms, because transform component is relative objective. So yeah, so I'm gonna get all of those guys out there because I don't like having 5 different players in my game. That just confuses me. So I'm going to make a new folder now for textures. These textures are exactly what they sound like. They're textures. One last very important part of the Unity hierarchy and object system is parenting and child. So what we can do is I can say on an object I can create another object. So say, actually, let's not create an object. Let's just put our camera on the player. So now our camera is a child of the player. So what this means is our camera's transform here is completely relative to the player. So if I set it to 0, 0, 0, then it's actually going to be at the transform of the player, which is interesting. It's a little confusing at first, and might lead to some confusion, but it's a really nice thing to know. So basically what this means now is I can move my camera around. So I can say position, or let's not do that. Let's do like position 0, y5, or x0, y5, 0, and I can change my x-axis rotation to rotate negative 90 degree. No, that's up at the sky. So maybe let's say like 30 degrees. No, 20 degrees. I'm looking at my camera preview if you haven't noticed. And now we are kind of looking down at the player. Not really. So I'm going to go to my z-axis transform and move it back like -10. There we go. Now we can see our player. And now this is also going to follow our player around wherever it goes. So if we put some sort of movement script on our player, the camera is going to be looking right here at the player the entire time. Very simple camera logic for your future games. So yeah, I believe actually so trains, one more cool important thing. Put in game objects, and I can maybe not that. Let's do create object, create 3D object, terrain. Trains are cool because they're just an empty plane, and then you can add mountains and hills and trees and grass. So they're great for creating environments. So yeah, and I believe that is it for this intro video, and check back for next up. Actually, for my next video, I'm going to do a little bit of an in-depth project on animation and the animator system in Unity. So yeah, thank you for watching, and see you next time.